What's going on, y'all? This is Peter. Welcome to another book review. Today we doing Lucky Me by Rich Paul. I was super excited about this book. I couldn't wait to get into it and learn more things about him that I didn't know, especially from his past, his history, to everything he got going on now. I learned a lot I didn't know. I hope y'all interested in this book too, like I was, and we about to do this review. It's Peter. Let's get it. All right. Couple things about this book. The title I thought was super interesting because it's called Lucky Me. Now initially I was thinking, like, do he mean lucky me, like I had to go through, I had to struggle, I had to endure and survive all of these hood crazy things that I've been through in order to get to the position I am? Or like lucky me, I survived and I'm in the position I am now? Like, is it more of a sarcastic title or is it more of a literal title? So off the bat, that's one of the first things that I was curious about, was his intent. And I still am, to some extent, because some extent I do kind of understand, and some of it do want to get like a literal explanation from him himself. Like, no, I meant this way in particular, if you understand what I mean. Because I was just curious, like, is it lucky me or like lucky me? Like, you feel me? So the title was off the bat one of the things that was kind of interesting to me about this book. Another thing that I thought was kind of interesting about the book, I'm just looking over my notes, was like, it was dope to learn about like Rich Paul himself. Because just me being honest, I never really thought about Rich Paul outside of LeBron James. Like, anytime I thought Rich Paul, I thought LeBron. Anytime I thought LeBron, it's just my natural train of thought. And I'm assuming this happened to him a lot throughout his, path to get to where he is now, because this book was literally about him, his childhood, and where he came from. The LeBron part didn't come into much later. So from my understanding, it was like deliberate to kind of not associate itself with LeBron for the beginning of the book, just so you can understand him as a man. And like, as any man know, if you've been around anybody successful, and you always kind of want to develop your own identity, your own source of like importance. So him developing into the person he is today, he really lets you know in this book how he got there, why he got there, and why he is the person he is today, good or bad, up or down. So like, getting to learn about Rich Paul the man definitely was an interesting read. It definitely wasn't what I expected, to be honest, at all. I was expecting more of I had to fight this agent or I had to go through this X, Y, and Z in the NBA, but it was more about what developed him into the person he is in the NBA, more than later on. So that was definitely a good part of the book, learning about Rich Paul the man. All right, we're gonna talk about the Rich Paul rule. Now, I've heard of it, and I kind of know a good idea of what happened with it, but to hear him talk about it is kind of like the way they be trying to keep us out of position, the way they try to keep you like. So the Rich Paul rule was a rule basically saying that in order for you to be an NBA agent, you had to have a certain degree, a certain level of college education in order for you to be in this position. And the only reason why this rule was even created was because of Rich Paul. And it was no secret. Everybody knew that was the reason why they created it, because Rich Paul had an advantage over a lot of these current NBA agents with his relationships with players, because he can identify where they came from, what they've been through, and how they got to where they at, and the need to take care of family, the need to get out of certain places and environments. So he had that better understanding than most of these agents could ever have. And being around a lot of people of our background or our history or our culture, and then you in a position where you can help them improve and take advantage and not be taken advantage of, that'll be like a slam dunk. Like, hell yeah, I'm going that way. Like, I'm gonna go with the person I know that's gonna understand where I'm coming from, what I need, and what I've been through, and where I want to go, and not go back to. So they was like, this is unfair to some extent, behind closed doors, this is unfair. So they try to develop this rule where and to be an NBA agent, you had to have a certain college education, and just trying to slow down his progress. But like Kanye always say, if they're not saying nothing, then I know I need to do more, because once they talking about me, once they trying to stop me, that you getting some traction. So he was doing so good that he just knew, like, okay, let's try to get this guy out of the way because he's like breaking the rules. He's doing too many things that's like putting these players in power, and that's of course the establishment never wants you to do that. They don't never want the people, players to be in power because they feel like it's going to mess with the integrity of the game. But yeah, that's basically the Rich Paul rule, why it was implemented and how it was messed up. But they eventually got rid of it because everybody knew, like, yo, you're on some shiesty stuff. So yeah, that was another dope part of the book, understanding and learning about his perspective about the Rich Paul rule. All right, so we're going to go into the prices of the book. Right now, of course, these prices always change. It always depends on where you get your books from. But the price of the hard copy is $17.99. The price of Audible is $15.99. And the price on Kindle is $13.99. And the book is 272 pages. And the audiobook, I do believe Rich Paul voices it. I'm not 1,000% sure, but I believe it's Rich Paul voicing his own Audible. And I always appreciate when I hear an authentic voice, regardless if it's him or not, or someone closer to what the person may or may not sound like on the audios, because it always adds, that little extra of authenticity to the book. So yeah, that's the prices, and that's how long the book is. All right, we're going to go into the highlights and the lowlights. All right, just looking at my notes. The highlights, I love how relatable the book was. Like, I've read, and I'm going to say this in other book reviews too as well. I've read Black Thought book. I read Will Smith book. This is Rich Paul, Eric Thomas, 50 Cent. Like, I read so many books by black men, even Cry Like a Man. I forget the author name, but like all of these books where we have like very similar upbringings, very similar stories, very similar experiences. When we all come, even if the eras are somewhat different, it's still a similar experience. From my understanding of reading from like the 80s into the 90s, like in the hood, it was always a similar experience, the same story. And I love how a lot of these guys made it out just based off of trying to get out of them environments, and how these environments created this sense of urgency to develop and become something greater than you actually are. So I absolutely love that. It's dope. It is like one of the things that I really enjoyed about it. I love the details and how the stories was amazing. That was also good. Oh, I'm just looking at my notes. The throwback jerseys, how he was kind of the not the creator, but like one of the people that like kind of drove the culture forward with throwback jerseys. Like, I'm from Philly, so if you know Mitchell and Ness, all of them hardwood jerseys was out of Philly, so I was always proud of that, man. And everybody wanted a throwback. And then I was living in like West Virginia, and I was living in Oklahoma, and like this whole jersey phenom was taking over everywhere. So to hear like a backstory on another reason why it became so popular and how him and LeBron got cool because of the jerseys was super dope, man, and super interesting. And how he turned it into a business and a hustle. And that's just our people, man. Like, we take whatever we can get, the bottom of the bottom, and turn it into something that's just fucking amazing. Excuse my language, but it's just dope, man, to hear these stories of how we develop and turn things into such a cultural phenomenon. So that was also a highlight of the book that I loved. All right, one of the low lights of the book, and this is not even really that bad, but I really wanted to hear more about Clutch, the agency, getting it started, his experiences with it. Like, I wanted to hear some motivational tips on how to handle business in a way that I wasn't expecting. And I guess that goes back into the title, Lucky Me, but I just wanted to hear more of the ins and outs of the day-to-day of the Clutch sports, which I didn't get. And maybe I'm missing, or maybe I missed that whole, but I really didn't get much of the insight into Clutch sports and the day-to-day and the experiences. And I guess a part of it is just business as well. Like, you can't go into too much without like rubbing the people the wrong way, or burning bridges to some extent. He probably didn't want to air nobody out all like that, because I'm pretty sure there's plenty of people that he could air out. So that was just one thing that I was kind of disappointed about. But for the most part, that's the only low light I had about the book. Yeah, that's it. All right, we on to the final thoughts of the book. I enjoyed this book. I really did. It wasn't hard for me to get through at all. One of the things I love, he was talking about his dyno bike that he had that they tried to steal. And anybody know me know when I was a kid, Me and my dad used to create these dynos and GTs. My dad used to bring home like chrome bikes. We'd go to the bike store, buy the GT dyno stickers and make the fake ones. I used to get the pitbull brakes, the pegs, everything I could do to put it on the bike to make it look dope as hell. And they always got stolen. So he put all his money into his bike and it got stolen. It was just something that I definitely could relate to, that I enjoyed about the book. Story about his dad. His dad was dope, man, because his dad always was installing a level of like seriousness and like responsibility. And even though his dad had his flaws, of course, but it's like he really was installing strength into him to be this businessman that he is today. It wasn't really about being vulnerable or nothing like that we learn how to do these days. It was more about, you got to be on your job to be successful out here and really be taking stuff serious and teaching them little ins and outs about rolling dice, all kinds of stuff. So that was also a dope part of the book. And he was saying how this book was definitely therapeutic for him, and it definitely be therapeutic for me as well, reading these books and understanding that we all have a similar struggle and we all been through certain things, and you can make it out. And not only will you make it out, you can thrive out of what you've been through. You can turn the worst into like a shining star. That it's common saying, putting pressure and turns into a diamond. I'm sure I'm getting that completely wrong, but you get my point. Like, pressure creates dynamic situations at times, and a lot of these guys' books that I read have lived in some of the worst circumstances and really developed to something like amazing. So that's one thing I took from this, and that was my overall thoughts and final thoughts of the book. If you did read the book Lucky Me by Rich Paul, let me know what you thought in the comment section. I want y'all feedback. I ain't really been getting no feedback from nobody on these books. I feel like I'm the only one out here reading. So if you are reading, you are a man, and you are my age or even younger or older, I want to start hearing back from y'all. Let me know what y'all think about these books. Let me know if y'all reading them. Let me know if y'all got any opinion, and let me know if you feel like I'm wrong about something in the book. So definitely get in commenting section, like, subscribe, and follow me. It's Pito. This is Lucky Me by Rich Paul. I'm out. Let's get it.